In the dead of a stormy night, a lonely millionaire named Caleb Sinclair hears desperate cries echoing through his massive mansion. What he finds in his garage isn't just one child, but 5 newborn quintuplets, abandoned and crying for help. Who would leave 5 fragile infants in such a cold, calculated way, and why choose Caleb? What dark secrets lie hidden behind these tiny faces? And what unimaginable danger are they running from Caleb, a man hardened by loss and defined by control? Suddenly finds himself thrust into a world where vulnerability and love collide. How will this man, accustomed to commanding global empires, protect these little girls from forces beyond his understanding, and as shadows from a ruthless biotech corporation begin to close in, can Caleb and the children he's sworn to protect survive the storm ahead? This story isn't just about survival. It's about hope, sacrifice, and the unexpected ways that family is formed. Get ready to dive into a journey of courage and resilience that will challenge everything you think you know about love and protection. If you want to hear how Caleb's life changed forever and what fate holds for these quintuplets, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Let's begin the story. Storm-drenched night settled like a restless spirit over Crestwood. Lightning split the sky in jagged silver bolts, illuminating the hulking silhouette of Sinclair Manor through curtains of driving rain. Inside, the great house groaned under the wind's assault, shutters rattling and gutters overflowing. By all measures, this was the kind of night most people would choose to ignore the world tucked safely under layers of blankets. Windows sealed tight. Yet, for Caleb Sinclair, it was another sleepless vigil in solitude. Caleb paced his private study, each step measured and silent against the polished oak floor. He paused at the floor-to-ceiling window, its leaded panes etched with water trails, and stared out at the roiling tempest. At 40, he had achieved what few could even imagine. He was the founder and CEO of a cutting-edge software and renewable energy conglomerate, Sinclair Innovations, his net worth rivaling some small nations. Yet his mansion, 15,000 square feet of Georgian opulence, felt no more like home than a museum of his own accomplishments. A photograph on his desk caught his eye, him and his late wife, Marisol, smiling beneath dappled sunlight in a sunlit park. Her laughter was frozen in the glossy print, her auburn hair crowned by a stray sunbeam. He reached out, fingertips brushing the frame. 3 years had passed since cancer claimed her, 3 years in which solitude had become his closest confidant. He'd buried himself in board meetings, quarterly forecasts, and high-stakes negotiations to ward off the hollow ache. But tonight, the memory still ached fresh. The grandfather clock chimed 3 times, its deep tones resonating in the silence that followed each echo. Caleb closed his eyes, head tilted back as if hoping the sound would propel him somewhere besides this endless night. Instead, the room seemed to contract around him, walls pressing in with oppressive quiet. He exhaled sharply, smoothing back his dark hair flecked prematurely with silver. A sudden, muffled cry cut through the stillness. Caleb froze mid-breath, heart jolting. He blinked, half expecting the sound to vanish as a trick of memory, but it came again, urgent, plaintive, unmistakable, the cry of an infant. His pulse spiked. He set aside the photograph and moved to the doorway, hand hovering over the light switch. The warm glow of the chandelier overhead barely touched the farthest corners of the room, leaving shadows like dark stains at the edges. He stepped into the hallway. The cry grew louder, amplified by the acoustics of the high ceilings and marble floors. He frowned, mind racing who would possibly be out here at this hour, in this storm. More strangely, what child would wander these halls unaccompanied? He felt a familiar stir of control-driven adrenaline. Normally, he'd check the security logs, lock down the house with a few taps on his phone. But something about the sound, raw and desperate, compelled him forward without hesitation. He slipped into a tailored navy blazer. His shirt was already damp from the humidity, and descended the grand staircase 2 steps at a time. His polished loafers clicked softly against the marble. At the bottom, he crossed the gallery, pausing at a massive portrait of his family crest, a silver stag beneath a storm-clouded sky. The symbolism wasn't lost on him tonight. He reached the foyer and switched on the overhead lights. The glow revealed the inlaid stone floor and twin staircases winding upward, but no sign of a child. The cries now echoed from deeper within the west wing. Sweat prickled his brow despite the chill. He pressed a button on his phone to disable the security system briefly, then moved swiftly down the corridor. At the end of the hallway, a heavy oak door led to the private garage and the service wing. He eased it open, torch app bright on his smartphone. The light swept over rows of luxury sedans and sports cars, their chrome surfaces reflecting the flashlight's beam in dizzying patterns. Rainwater pooled near the overhead door. The air smelled of grease, leather, and damp concrete. Then he saw a large, hand-woven wicker basket in the center of the bay, its lid folded back. Beneath, 5 tiny bodies lay curled in matching pale blankets. The basketball-sized heads, tufted with dark hair, bobbed gently as the infants cried in unison a quintet of sorrow. For a moment, the world seemed to stop, thunder forgotten. Caleb swallowed hard, stepping closer. His light played over the smallest features, rosebud lips, downy lashes, clenched fists. He knelt, voice caught in his throat. What? He knelt more fully, heart pounding so forcefully he wondered if the babies could feel its thud. He caught sight of a small medical bracelet around the wrist of the nearest girl. Lifting one palm-sized hand, he read the inscription, Marquis Quintuplet, Dob March 15, 2022, exactly 1 year old. His mind raced through security protocols, crime scenarios, child welfare emergencies. He flicked through the live feed on his phone, no unauthorized entry, no alerts. The service entrance scan was looping. Someone had outsmarted even his top-tier system. He exhaled, reaching into the basket with trembling fingers. One of the infants tracked his movement with wide, curious eyes, a slow blink of trust. He lifted her gently, cradling her head with surprising tenderness. Her crying lessened to plaintive whimpers as she curled into his chest. The world felt impossibly fragile in that moment. Okay, he whispered to the silence, to the storm, to himself. Okay, let's figure this out. He stood, supporting the infant against his shoulder, and pocketed his phone. Every logical part of his mind screamed that he should call security, alert the authorities, evacuate. Yet another voice, soft, insistent, pressed on him. Protect them. He padded back toward the garage's side door, still not trusting himself to speak. Outside, the storm raged, but inside, he held 5 small lives destined to change his own. The rain continued to hammer against the windows of Sinclair Manor as Caleb carefully carried the infant from the garage toward the warmth of the house. Each step felt surreal, as if he were walking in a dream where the rules of his meticulously ordered life no longer applied. The other 4 babies cried softly, their voices weaving together in a haunting lullaby that echoed through the cavernous space. He found himself in the rarely used West Wing living room, a room lined with bookshelves filled with leather-bound tomes and abstracts from scientific journals. The fire had long gone cold, but the large windows offered a view of the manicured gardens, now soaked and gleaming in the storm. Placing the basket gently on a soft rug, Caleb looked down at the 5 tiny faces, so alike yet distinct. Each girl blinked up at him with wide, searching eyes. His mind raced. Who could have abandoned 5 infants here? On this night, why here, why to him? The note tucked inside the basket, soaked but still legible, was the only clue. He unfolded it with trembling hands. The elegant handwriting read, "Please care for my daughters temporarily. They are in danger. I will contact you when it is safe. They need someone with resources and integrity. You are the only one who can protect them. No signature, no further explanation." Caleb's chest tightened as he reread the message. Someone had placed a weighty responsibility in his hands, a challenge unlike any he had faced before. His business empire thrived on control and precision. But this was chaos. Tiny, fragile, utterly dependent lives. He settled the infant he carried into a large armchair near the window and retrieved his phone. His fingers hesitated over the screen. The usual protocol would be to call security immediately, to alert the police and social services, but something held him back. The note, the warning, the sense that this was no ordinary abandonment. Instead, he dialed his assistant, Maya Patel. Maya's voice was groggy but professional when she answered. Caleb explained the situation carefully, trying to maintain calm in his tone despite the adrenaline racing through his veins. Maya promised to arrive with emergency supplies formula, diapers, blankets, and to call Child Protective Services discreetly. When she arrived, a blur of efficient energy and calm in the midst of chaos. Caleb felt a rare surge of relief. Maya moved quickly to organize the living room into a makeshift nursery. Portable cribs appeared, bottles were prepared, and soft toys were arranged with an attention to detail that suggested experience beyond the corporate world. Caleb watched as Maya tended to the infants, bottle feeding one while gently rocking another. The sight was strange and new to him. He felt awkward, his hands unused to tenderness and care. But when one baby reached a tiny fist toward his face and grasped his finger, a flicker of something unfamiliar warmed his chest. That night, Caleb lay awake on a sparse cot beside the nursery. The house was filled with the soft chorus of babies breathing and occasional whimpers. Sleep eluded him as memories of Marisol haunted the quiet spaces between the cries. He wrestled with the storm inside more furious than the one outside, the gnawing fear of failure, the weight of responsibility, the stirrings of hope. Was he truly ready to be a guardian? Could he protect these children from whatever danger lurked in the shadows? The following morning brought a torrent of calls, meetings, and paperwork. Maya coordinated with Child Protective Services, who arrived cautiously to assess the situation. The caseworker, Olivia Chen, was professional but clearly shaken by the rarity of the case. 5 infant siblings abandoned on the doorstep of a billionaire. Ethan explained his desire to provide immediate care, requesting temporary guardianship. Olivia warned of the complexity finding foster homes able to keep the quintuplets together would be nearly impossible. The prospect of separating the siblings caused Caleb to flinch. He spent the day learning about infant care routines, juggling business calls with feeding schedules, and watching the girls respond to their new environment. Despite their identical appearances, small differences emerged. One was more vocal, another more curious, a third more placid. Maya named them Ruby, Pearl, Amber, Jade, and Opal after gemstones, a tentative attempt to give each a unique identity until their mother could be found. Caleb found himself drawn repeatedly to the nursery. The towering tech titan who commanded global markets was now consumed with the minutiae of diapers and lullabies. In stolen moments, he wondered about the mother who had entrusted these babies to him. What horrors had driven her to such desperation? Was she still alive? Was she safe? The house felt alive with a new kind of energy, raw and fragile, like a beating heart beneath marble and steel. The emptiness that had defined Caleb since Marisol's death seemed to recede, replaced by a fierce determination to protect this unexpected family. Yet, amid the tenderness, the shadows deepened. Security footage revealed the service entrance camera had been looped a sophisticated hack. Someone had breached his fortress undetected, placing the quintuplets inside. His security chief, Marcus Lang, arrived with his team, launching a thorough sweep of the property. Caleb's mind spun with unsettling possibilities. Was this a message, a warning, a trap? The implications cut deeper than any boardroom confrontation. This was a battle for innocence itself. That evening, as the rain eased to a drizzle, Caleb sat in his study with Maya and Marcus. Discussing next steps, he insisted on expanded security, background checks on all staff, and discreet surveillance of nearby neighbors. The babies were now his priority above all else. He found himself pacing again, unable to shake the feeling that his life had irrevocably changed. The mansion, once a monument to success and solitude, was transforming into a sanctuary. And in the quiet moments, when the babies finally fell asleep, Caleb allowed himself a rare vulnerability. He whispered promises he barely understood, promises to protect, to nurture, to fight for the futures of 5 tiny lives who had come to him in the darkest hour. Morning light filtered softly through the draped windows of Sinclair Manor, casting long shadows across the nursery where 5 little faces slept peacefully. Caleb Sinclair sat quietly in a high-backed chair nearby, a rare moment of stillness after a night filled with worry and planning. The mansion's usual hum of business was replaced by a fragile silence that felt almost sacred. Despite the serenity, Caleb's mind churned restlessly. Just days ago, this grand estate had been his solitary refuge, a fortress of control and order. Now it was a home crammed with bottles, diapers, and tiny shoes. The stark contrast unsettled him more than he cared to admit. The past and present clashed like the storm that had brought the babies to his door. Maya Patel, his ever-reliable assistant, entered softly, carrying a steaming mug of coffee. Her expression was both tired and tender as she approached the cluster of cribs. "They're amazing, Caleb," she said quietly. "They're all different, even if they look the same." Caleb smiled faintly, watching as the youngest stirred, fingers twitching. "It's hard to believe they're real," he confessed. "Part of me still feels like I'm dreaming." Maya settled into a chair beside him. "You've handled this better than anyone could expect. Remember last night when you rocked Ruby to sleep? That was something." He looked away, cheeks flushing slightly. "I've never done anything like that before. It's humbling, to say the least, but also terrifying. Terrifying because you care," Maya replied, her voice gentle. and that means you'll find a way." Caleb nodded, but his thoughts drifted to Marisol, her voice, her laughter, the gentle way she had cared for everything around her. He wondered if she would have been proud of him now, struggling as he was. The ache of loss was still raw, but the presence of these 5 tiny lives sparked a flicker of hope he hadn't felt in years. The day ahead was a whirlwind: legal appointments, social worker visits, and endless calls threatened to drown him in complexity. Yet every time his mind threatened to spiral, he returned to the nursery. The girls depended on him, and that reality grounded his scattered thoughts. A knock at the door announced the arrival of Olivia Chen, the Child Protective Services caseworker, tall and poised. Olivia carried an air of calm professionalism, but Caleb sensed the gravity of the situation weighed heavily on her. She had seen her share of difficult cases, but quintuplets abandoned in such a manner were extraordinary. After greetings, Olivia sat down with a file folder and began outlining the legal and procedural hurdles ahead. Finding foster families who could care for all 5 together was unlikely. The system wasn't designed for such a rare circumstance. "We'll do everything possible to keep siblings united," Olivia assured, "but this is going to require extraordinary measures." Caleb swallowed hard. The thought of these fragile children being separated was unbearable. "I want to keep them here," he said firmly. "I'll provide everything they need: security, care, stability. I'm prepared to take temporary guardianship." Olivia studied him carefully. "You understand the responsibilities involved: child care experience, emotional support, legal obligations. It's a huge commitment." "I'm aware," Caleb replied steadily, "but it's one I intend to honor." As they spoke, the nursery door creaked open and Maya stepped inside, holding a tiny bottle and wiping a tear from her cheek. "They need feeding," she said softly. Caleb rose, following her lead, and together they tended to the infants, the room filling with the quiet sounds of suckling and contented sighs. In those moments, Caleb felt a shift inside him. The rigid walls of solitude he had built around his heart began to crumble. The baby's dependence was a mirror reflecting his own need for connection, for purpose beyond wealth and power. Later that afternoon, Caleb sat with Marcus Lang, his chief of security, reviewing footage from the night the babies were left in the garage. The discovery that the service entrance camera had been looped was deeply troubling. Marcus's voice was low and serious. This was a professional job. Whoever did this knew the house, the security systems. They disabled the feed long enough to leave the babies without detection. Caleb frowned. The implication was chilling. Someone had planned this carefully, selecting his property for a reason. Was this a threat, a plea for help, or a move in a larger game he didn't yet understand? The thought that his fortress had been breached gnawed at him. He was a man used to controlling outcomes, yet this invasion of his sanctuary left him feeling vulnerable in a way he had not experienced since Marisol's passing. He instructed Marcus to double the security detail, increase perimeter patrols, and install additional cameras focused on the nursery and access points. His phone buzzed incessantly with updates, but Caleb barely noticed. His focus was on the fragile lives entrusted to him that evening as he prepared to leave the nursery after bedtime. One of the infants, Opal, stirred and reached a tiny hand toward him. He paused, letting her grasp his finger, feeling the soft pulse of life so full of potential and fragility. "Sleep well, little one," he whispered, the words feeling strange yet heartfelt. Later, alone in his study, Caleb sat back in his chair and allowed himself to reflect on the whirlwind of the past days. The weight of responsibility was immense, yet within it lay a chance for redemption, for healing. He thought about the mother who had left the babies in his care. Who was she? What dangers had forced her to make such a desperate choice? The unanswered questions burned in his mind. Caleb's phone vibrated a message from Maya, a simple line, "We'll get through this, one step at a time." He smiled faintly, feeling the first true sense of connection since Marisol's death. The road ahead was uncertain and fraught with challenges. But, for the first time in years, Caleb Sinclair was not alone. The days that followed felt like a blur of meetings, phone calls, and sleepless nights. Caleb Sinclair, once a man whose life revolved around stock prices and product launches, now found his every waking moment consumed by 5 tiny lives demanding his attention. The juxtaposition was dizzying the CEO of a global technology empire navigating the unpredictable rhythms of infant care. It was humbling and, at times, terrifying. Caleb sat in the conference room of Sinclair Manor, surrounded by legal documents and a small team assembled to help navigate the maze ahead. His attorney, Nathan Blake, a seasoned litigator with a reputation for unflappable calm, was laying out the options. "Temporary guardianship is your best bet for now," Nathan explained. "It gives you legal authority to care for the children immediately, while Child Protective Services continue their search for the mother." Caleb nodded, absorbing the weight of responsibility. "How long does that last?" "Typically 72 hours, though extensions are possible if you can demonstrate capability and intent," Nathan replied. Caleb glanced out the window, where rain clouds gathered ominously. 72 hours. A deadline ticking relentlessly toward an uncertain future. That afternoon, Olivia Chen from Child Protective Services returned for a thorough home inspection. She moved methodically through the nursery, scrutinizing every detail: the safety of the cribs, the cleanliness of the bottles, the organization of the diapers. "You've done well to create a safe environment," Olivia said finally, her tone appreciative but cautious. "But caring for quintuplets is a monumental challenge. You'll need support." Caleb met her gaze steadily. "I have the resources to hire qualified nannies. I want to keep the girls together. Stability is crucial." Olivia hesitated, then nodded. "We'll work with you on this. But the courts will want to see clear plans and evidence of your commitment." In the days that followed, Caleb's world contracted and expanded simultaneously. His schedule fragmented into feeding times, nap routines, and medical appointments interspersed with high-stakes business calls. He developed a newfound respect for the quiet heroism of parents everywhere. Maya Patel proved indispensable, juggling her role as assistant with that of an impromptu maternal figure. She coordinated the arrival of 2 experienced nannies, Mrs. Chen and Ms. Patterson, both well-versed in multiples care. Their calm presence brought order to the chaos, offering Caleb precious moments to breathe and think. Despite the external support, Caleb wrestled with his own doubts. Late at night, when the house finally grew quiet, he sat alone in his study, questioning his ability to protect these vulnerable children. His mind spiraled to fears of failing them, of the dangers that lurked beyond the manicured grounds of Sinclair Manor. He remembered Marisol's gentle voice, her unwavering faith in his strength. Yet he could not shake the feeling that this trial was unlike any he had faced before. Meanwhile, Detective Elena Torres continued her investigation into the mysterious abandonment. She shared with Caleb troubling findings, a pattern of specialized formula purchases traced to cash payments, surveillance footage of a woman matching the description of the children's mother, and the suspicious looping of security cameras. These weren't random acts, Elena said during a meeting in Caleb's study. Someone planned this meticulously. They knew your security systems intimately. Caleb frowned. Who would want to send me 5 infants, and why Elena's gaze was steady? That's what we're trying to uncover, but it suggests insider knowledge or surveillance. We're exploring all angles. The tension in the room was palpable. Caleb, a man accustomed to controlling every variable, now found himself confronting forces beyond his reach. One evening, as Caleb prepared to leave the nursery after tucking in the infants, Maya approached him with a small, carefully wrapped bundle. "I found this in Jade's blanket," she said softly. Caleb untied the knot, revealing a tiny flash drive nearly hidden in the seam. His heart quickened. "Where do you think this came from?" Maya shrugged. "I don't know, but it feels important." That night, Caleb sat alone at his desk, inserting the flash drive into a secure laptop isolated from the network. Files loaded slowly, a series of encrypted documents, and a single video. The screen flickered to life, revealing a woman with sharp eyes and a weary expression. Her dark hair framed a face marked by stress and determination. "Mr. Sinclair," she began, voice steady despite the evident strain. "If you're watching this, it means I have trusted you with my daughter's safety. My name is Dr. Serena Valdez, and I am their mother." Caleb leaned closer, captivated by her words. Serena explained that she was a genetic researcher who had uncovered unethical experiments conducted by a rival biotech firm, Vertex Biotech. Her pregnancy with the quintuplets was a direct result of unauthorized gene editing procedures performed without her consent. "I fled to protect them," Serena said. "I could not trust the authorities or anyone connected to Vertex. They view my daughters as research subjects, not children." The video ended with a plea for Caleb to safeguard the girls until she could gather enough evidence to expose the corporation and reunite with her family. Caleb sat back, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what he had uncovered. These were not just abandoned infants. They were the center of a corporate conspiracy. His protective instincts flared with renewed intensity. Whatever the cost, he vowed to shield these children from harm. In the following days, Caleb's world transformed further. He balanced the demands of caring for the quintuplets with navigating the perilous legal and corporate minefields ahead. The 67th hour approached, the deadline for his initial guardianship. Armed with the evidence from Serena's flash drive and a detailed care plan developed with Olivia and his legal team, Caleb prepared to petition for an extension. His heart pounded as he entered the courtroom, the fate of the 5 infants resting in the hands of Judge Harriet Blake, a woman known for her fairness and scrutiny. "Mr. Sinclair," the judge began, her eyes sharp beneath silver-streaked hair. "This is an unusual case. You seek to extend guardianship for 5 children with no biological connection to you. Why should the court grant this?" Caleb met her gaze confidently. "Your Honor, these children were placed in my care for a reason. They face threats that extend beyond typical abandonment. I have the resources, the commitment, and the love necessary to provide them a stable, secure environment." He laid out the evidence, the video from Dr. Valdez, the security breaches, the specialized care arrangements. The judge listened intently, nodding at points, her expression inscrutable. After a brief recess, she returned. The court finds your petition justified. Guardianship is extended pending further investigation. This decision prioritizes the safety and well-being of the children. Relief flooded Caleb's chest. The battle was far from over, but he had won a critical victory. As he left the courtroom, Caleb felt a shift inside him. The storm that had once felt like an unending torment now seemed like a cleansing force, washing away old fears and forging a new purpose. He thought of the 5 girls, Ruby, Pearl, Amber, Jade, and Opal, sleeping safely in the nursery he had transformed into a sanctuary. Each small face held a promise, a future unwritten. And Caleb Sinclair was determined to write it with care, courage, and unwavering devotion. The soft hum of city life outside the gates of Sinclair Manor was a distant echo compared to the intensity unfolding within its walls. Caleb Sinclair sat at the head of a polished mahogany table, flanked by Detective Elena Torres and his security chief, Marcus Lang. Spread before them was a collection of maps, surveillance footage, and purchase records that painted a troubling picture. The story behind the abandoned quintuplets was growing darker, more complex, and far more dangerous by the day. Elena pointed to a series of highlighted locations on a city map pinned to the wall. These are all the specialty baby formula stores where large quantities of multiple infant formula were purchased in the months leading up to the baby's arrival. Marcus tapped a finger against the map. All paid in cash. No loyalty cards, no credit cards, cash only. The purchases stopped abruptly 3 days before the babies appeared. Caleb frowned. "Have you identified the buyer?" Elena shook her head. "Partially. Surveillance footage caught a woman matching the description of the infant's mother wearing medical scrubs, sunglasses, and a hoodie to obscure her face. She changed locations frequently and varied her appearance. Our analysis suggests she works in a medical or research facility." Caleb's mind raced. "That fits with Dr. Serena Valdez's profile." Elena nodded. "Exactly. We traced some purchases to a small apartment complex 15 miles south of here. The place was recently vacated, not professionally cleaned, and we found evidence suggesting recent infant occupation. More disturbingly, we uncovered encrypted equipment and documents related to genetic research," Marcus added. "The technology on the premises is high-end encryption devices, lab equipment, but no sign of a permanent resident. Whoever was there wanted to disappear fast." Caleb's pulse quickened. The web was tightening around a clandestine operation he was only beginning to understand. Could Vertex Biotech be involved? Elena's expression darkened. "Everything points in that direction. We've uncovered internal memos referencing experimental trials involving unauthorized gene editing. Dr. Valdez's research suggests the quintuplets are products of these illegal experiments." Caleb felt a chill. The idea that his home had become the epicenter of a biotech scandal unsettled him deeply. "And the woman in the footage, a target," Elena said. "She's been under surveillance for months. It explains why she left the babies with you and why she's remained in hiding." The room fell into a tense silence, each of them absorbing the implications. Caleb finally broke the quiet. "We need to protect her and the girls. Full perimeter lockdown, biometric security for all entrances, and rotating medical teams for the babies." Marcus nodded. "Already underway. I've doubled the security staff and installed facial recognition cameras focused on the estate's perimeter. Caleb exhaled slowly. Good. We're dealing with a corporate predator. Vertex will stop at nothing to recover their research assets. Over the following days, Caleb's life settled into an exhausting rhythm. The quintuplets, now 12 months old, were growing rapidly, each showing distinct personalities despite their identical appearance. Ruby was the vocal leader, often babbling insistently. Pearl was observant and quiet, always watching. Amber was a fearless climber, constantly testing boundaries. Jade was the peacemaker, calm and gentle, and Opal was contemplative, studying the world with intense focus. Caleb found himself mesmerized by their differences. Watching them navigate infancy together was a lesson in resilience and individuality. Maya helped document their development meticulously, noting milestones and subtle behavioral cues. Yet Caleb's mind often wandered back to Serena Valdez, the woman whose sacrifice had brought these girls to his doorstep. His heart ached for the separation she endured, the danger she faced, and the battle she fought to protect her children. One evening, as twilight bathed the nursery in soft light, Maya approached Caleb with a folder of developmental assessments from Dr. Melanie Sanders, the specialist assigned to the quintuplets. She says the girls are thriving, Maya reported, advanced in language and pattern recognition, but still within normal ranges. Nothing that screams genetic enhancement. Caleb smiled faintly. That's a relief. It means they're just children, growing and learning on their own terms. Maya nodded. Still, Vertex won't see it that way. They invested billions expecting breakthroughs. Losing these girls could ruin their research and their reputation. Caleb's jaw tightened. The stakes were high, but so was his determination. Security alerts became routine. One night, Marcus interrupted Caleb's video conference to report an attempted breach. 3 armed individuals wearing tactical gear had tried to enter the eastern perimeter, but retreated when confronted. Equipment recovered is traced to a private contractor known to work with Vertex subsidiaries, Marcus said grimly. Caleb's pulse quickened. Increase security to level 2. Notify Detective Torres. This isn't just corporate espionage, it's a direct threat. Detective Torres arrived within hours, briefing Caleb on the investigation's progress. The coordinated attempt confirmed that the danger was real and imminent. Together, they devised new security protocols, biometric locks on the nursery doors, reinforced barriers, and silent alarms directly linked to Caleb's personal devices. Despite the constant vigilance, Caleb found unexpected solace in the nursery. The girls had become his anchor. During late-night feedings and bath times, he practiced storytelling, giving each child a different voice, weaving tales that sparked giggles and wide-eyed wonder. One quiet moment stood out. As he tucked Opal into her crib, Caleb noticed a small bulge along the seam of her original blanket. Carefully, he unstitched the fabric, extracting a tiny flash drive no bigger than his thumbnail. His hands trembled slightly as he plugged it into a secure laptop. The drive contained medical records, genetic analyses, and a video message from Serena Valdez. Watching her speak with quiet determination, Caleb was reminded once again of the courage it took to protect her daughters. He realized that the girls' safety depended not only on technology and legal battles, but on the unwavering commitment of everyone involved. Caleb's thoughts drifted to the future. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with danger and complexity. But he knew one thing for certain: he would protect these 5 extraordinary girls with everything he had. The first rays of dawn crept through the tall windows of Sinclair Manor, casting a soft glow over the nursery where the 5 girls stirred gently in their cribs. Caleb Sinclair stood nearby, watching as Ruby stretched her tiny arms while Pearl blinked sleepily at the ceiling. The past weeks had been a whirlwind of legal battles, security concerns, and sleepless nights. But moments like this reminded him why every sacrifice was worth it. Despite the calm of the morning, a storm brewed just beneath the surface, a storm that would change everything. Maya Patel entered, carrying a secure envelope, her face serious but composed. "This arrived overnight," she said, handing it to Caleb. Inside was a court summons and a notice for a hearing regarding the guardianship status of the quintuplets. Caleb's jaw tightened. The initial 72-hour guardianship had already been extended twice. Now, the court demanded answers: his long-term intentions, the stability of his care, and the legal implications of his unprecedented role. Later that day, Caleb met with his attorney, Nathan Blake, in the study lined with dark wood panels and leather-bound books. Nathan laid out the challenges clearly. "The court will scrutinize your ability not just to care for the girls temporarily, but to provide a permanent home if their mother remains missing or unable to reclaim them. They'll question your experience, your lifestyle, your commitment." Caleb nodded. "I've never imagined this responsibility, but I'm ready to do whatever it takes." Nathan studied him intently. "You'll need to show more than resources. You'll need to demonstrate emotional investment, long-term planning, and the ability to nurture these children." Caleb thought about the countless nights spent rocking the infants to sleep, the stories he told in his own awkward, tentative voice, about how the loneliness that had defined his life since Marisol's death was slowly giving way to a fierce protectiveness. That evening, Detective Elena Torres arrived with fresh intelligence. The investigation into Vertex Biotech was gaining momentum. Elena shared her findings with Caleb, who listened intently as she detailed evidence of illegal human trials, unauthorized genetic manipulation, and attempts to cover tracks through bribery and intimidation. "It's worse than we thought," Elena said grimly. "Vertex's research division has been operating in the shadows for years, with the quintuplets as unintended or perhaps intended proof of concept." Caleb clenched his fists. "They saw my home as a target because of my resources and reputation. They wanted to control the narrative, the children, the research." Elena nodded. "Your involvement puts you squarely in their crosshairs." The weight of that reality settled heavily on Caleb's shoulders. He was no longer just a guardian. He was a shield. Amid the turmoil, Caleb found brief respite in the nursery. The girls' personalities continued to blossom. Amber's adventurous spirit led her to crawl faster and climb higher, while Jade's calm presence brought comfort to her siblings during moments of fussiness. Opal, ever contemplative, often seemed lost in thought, her deep, dark eyes scanning her surroundings with unusual intensity. Caleb marveled at how, despite identical genetics and extraordinary circumstances, each child was fiercely individual. Maya helped Caleb create detailed developmental journals, tracking milestones and noting subtle behaviors. They coordinated with Dr. Melanie Sanders, the developmental specialist, who assured them the quintuplets were thriving within normal ranges, advanced in some areas, but not outside the bounds of typical childhood growth. One afternoon, as Caleb was reviewing a video from Dr. Serena Valdez. He paused at a frame showing Serena holding her daughters just after birth. The expression on her face was a mixture of hope, fear, and fierce determination. It struck Caleb deeply, stirring a complex mixture of admiration and sorrow. Later that week, Caleb received a confidential call from a federal prosecutor. The investigation into Vertex Biotech's illegal activities had reached a critical point. 7 executives and researchers faced imminent indictments for unauthorized experimentation and falsification of records. Caleb. The prosecutor's voice was grave yet hopeful. Your cooperation has been invaluable. The evidence you and Dr. Valdez provided is key to bringing these criminals to justice. Caleb allowed himself a rare smile. For all the uncertainty, this felt like progress. But not all battles were fought in courtrooms and boardrooms. One evening, as the mansion's lights dimmed and the children slept, Caleb found himself restless, wandering the halls. His mind churned with conflicting emotions. He was fiercely protective yet uncertain about the future. Would the girls remain with him? Would Serena be able to reclaim them safely? Could he balance the demands of his company with the needs of these children who had come to define his life? The loneliness that had once consumed him had transformed into a profound connection. Yet the fear of loss lingered, a silent shadow. He paused before the nursery door, listening to the soft breaths of his daughters. In that quiet moment, he made a vow no matter what came, he would fight to give them the life they deserved. The polished floors of Sinclair Manor echoed quietly as Caleb Sinclair made his way to the private conference room, the weight of the upcoming meeting pressing heavily on his shoulders. He was about to face representatives from Vertex Biotech, an encounter fraught with tension, legal complexities, and unspoken threats. This meeting was more than a negotiation. It was a battle for the future of 5 innocent lives. Inside the room, sleek and minimalist, Caleb was greeted by Gideon Hawk, the silver-haired CEO of Vertex Biotech. Hawk's expression was a mask of practiced charm, but Caleb saw through it a man accustomed to wielding power and intimidation behind polished veneers. Mr. Sinclair, Hawk began smoothly, extending a hand that Caleb shook with measured firmness. I appreciate you agreeing to meet. I believe we can reach a resolution beneficial to all parties. Caleb kept his voice calm but resolute. This isn't just business, Mr. Hawk. These are children, your experiments, your responsibility. Hawk's smile was thin. We prefer to call them pioneering research assets. The genetic enhancements developed represent groundbreaking advances in medicine and technology. Caleb's eyes narrowed. They're 5 little girls, not assets. They deserve safety, love, and a future free from exploitation. The discussion turned quickly to terms financial offers, research rights, monitoring agreements. Hawk proposed a generous trust fund and ongoing genetic testing access in exchange for cooperation and silence. Caleb listened, weighing every word. The offer was staggering enough to secure the quintuplet's futures materially. Yet the implications were unacceptable. It meant surrendering their autonomy to a corporation that had violated ethical boundaries. I will not commodify these children, Caleb said firmly. They have rights, dignity, and the potential to define their own lives. Your proposals undermine that. Hawk's eyes darkened. You misunderstand. This is about science, progress. You stand in the way of advancements that could save millions. Caleb shook his head. At what cost? You endangered these girls before they even had a chance. It's not progress, it's abuse. The meeting grew more heated as legal teams intervened. Arguments volleyed, and cameras discreetly recorded the exchanges. Caleb's resolve was tested, but he remained steadfast. Days later, back at Sinclair Manor, Caleb reviewed the recordings with Nathan Blake and federal prosecutors. The evidence was damning Hawk's direct involvement in unethical experimentation and attempts to silence witnesses. "This is our leverage," Nathan said. "We can push for a settlement that protects the children, forces Vertex to dismantle its rogue research, and holds leadership accountable." Caleb nodded, relief mingling with exhaustion. The battle was far from over, but momentum was shifting. Meanwhile, Serena Valdez reemerged cautiously, coordinating with prosecutors and Caleb's team. Her presence brought a new energy, a fierce maternal determination that buoyed everyone. Together, Caleb and Serena developed a plan to protect the quintuplets during the ongoing legal storm. Security was intensified, legal guardianship formalized, and medical evaluations conducted regularly. Amid this turmoil, Caleb found unexpected joy in the nursery. The girls were blossoming, their laughter filling the halls with warmth, Ruby's leadership, Pearl's keen observation, Amber's boundless energy, Jade's calming presence, and Opal's thoughtful gaze reminded him daily of the preciousness of their lives. One afternoon, Maya approached Caleb with a small notebook. "They've started forming their own language," she said, smiling. "It's a mix of babbles and gestures unique to them. Their connection is incredible." Caleb watched as the girls played together, their tiny hands weaving patterns of connection and communication. It was a testament to resilience and love transcending circumstance. But the shadows lingered. Vertex's influence remained a threat, and the legal battles promised to stretch for months. Caleb knew the road ahead would demand every ounce of strength, compassion, and courage he possessed. As night fell over Sinclair Manor, Caleb stood once more before the nursery door. Listening to the soft breaths of his daughters, he felt a profound certainty. No matter the challenges, he would protect them. Not as experiments or assets, but as 5 extraordinary children his family. The calm before the storm often feels the heaviest. At Sinclair Manor, that calm stretched thin, punctuated by the faint, steady sounds of 5 tiny hearts beating in sync within the nursery's secure walls. Caleb Sinclair moved through the house with deliberate quiet, mindful of the fragile peace that had settled over his unusual household. The battles with Vertex Biotech still raged beyond the estate's gates, but inside, the quintuplets were blissfully unaware of the dangers that had shaped their beginnings. Despite this, Caleb's mind was a battlefield of its own. Late nights found him pacing the grand hallways, wrestling with fears, hopes, and doubts. Could he truly shield these children from the shadowy forces determined to claim them? Would Serena Valdez's return be enough to ensure their safety and a chance at normalcy? As the months passed, Caleb and Serena forged a partnership born from shared purpose and mutual respect. Serena's scientific brilliance and fierce maternal instinct complemented Caleb's resources and protective resolve. Together, they navigated the complexities of co-guardianship, blending their strengths for the quintuplets' benefit. The house slowly transformed from a fortress into a home. Child-sized chairs and toys began to dot the living spaces once reserved for austere minimalism. Laughter, tantrums, and the unpredictable chaos of childhood filled the air, breathing warmth into the once sterile halls. One afternoon, Caleb observed the girls during playtime, marveling at their distinct personalities. Ruby, ever the leader, organized games with a confidence that belied her age. Pearl watched silently from the sidelines, absorbing every detail with a thoughtful gaze. Amber's boundless energy kept everyone on their toes, climbing and exploring with fearless abandon. Jade soothed disputes with gentle words, and Opal's quiet curiosity led her to observe patterns others missed. Their development amazed even the specialists. Dr. Melanie Sanders reported accelerated language acquisition and advanced problem-solving skills, yet all within the natural range for gifted children. The enhancements rumored to exist from Vertex experiments were subtle, almost imperceptible, a small mercy. Caleb thought. Security remained tight. New biometric systems, 24/7 surveillance, and a dedicated medical team ensured the girls' safety. Yet Caleb knew the threat was never far. Vertex Biotech's leaders continued to maneuver behind the scenes, attempting legal and corporate gambits to regain control or silence those exposing them. A pivotal moment came when federal prosecutors announced indictments against several Vertex executives and researchers, including charges of illegal human experimentation and conspiracy. The news was a triumph, but carried an uneasy weight. The battle was won on paper, but the scars ran deeper. Caleb sat in his study late one night, the glow of his laptop illuminating lines of court documents and evidence. Serena joined him, weary but resolute. "We've made progress," she said softly, "but the system is slow, and the consequences for the girls will last a lifetime." Caleb nodded, understanding the truth in her words. The girls were no longer just subjects of science or legal proceedings. They were children deserving of love, security, and the freedom to grow without fear. The bond between Caleb and Serena deepened. Their partnership, forged in adversity, blossomed into friendship and, quietly, something more. They shared moments of laughter, vulnerability, and hope, small acts of normalcy that anchored them amid the storm. One evening, after the quintuplets were tucked into bed, Caleb and Serena stood together on the garden terrace, watching fireflies dance in the twilight. The night air was cool, the sky a tapestry of stars. "I never imagined this," Serena whispered, "that we'd find family in such unexpected ways." Caleb squeezed her hand gently. "Neither did I. But these girls, they saved me when I thought all was lost." Their eyes met, the unspoken understanding blooming between them. The journey that began with desperation and danger had brought them together, weaving a new story of resilience, love, and hope. The following months saw the formalization of the co-guardianship and the establishment of the Sinclair Valdez Foundation, dedicated to ethical oversight of genetic research and advocacy for children's rights. The foundation stood as a testament to what could be built from tragedy, a beacon for those who sought to protect the vulnerable. The quintuplets grew stronger, their laughter and voices filling the once quiet mansion with life. They learned to navigate the world on their terms, supported by a family forged through courage and choice. At their second birthday celebration, held in the blooming gardens of Sinclair Manor, Caleb and Serena watched with pride as Ruby, Pearl, Amber, Jade, and Opal played alongside gentle animals from a petting zoo, their faces alight with joy. Friends, legal allies, and close family gathered, each touched by the extraordinary journey that had brought these children from the shadows into the light. As the sun set, Caleb knelt beside each girl, honoring their unique spirits and the unbreakable bond that connected them all. in the quiet moments afterward. Caleb reflected on how far they had come from a stormy night when cries in a garage shattered his solitude to a vibrant family united by love, resilience, and hope. He knew the road ahead would continue to challenge them, but for the first time since Marisol's passing, his heart was full, and whatever storms might come, the Sinclair Valdez family would face them together. The quiet hum of the early morning was interrupted by the sharp ping of Caleb Sinclair's phone. He glanced at the screen, reading the urgent message from Marcus Lang, his chief of security. Unidentified vehicle detected near East Perimeter. Possible surveillance. Caleb's heart tightened. Despite months of heightened security measures, the threat never truly dissipated. He rose from his chair, the weight of responsibility pressing down with renewed intensity. 5 lives depended on his vigilance. In the nursery, the quintuplets slept peacefully, their small chests rising and falling in unison. Ruby's steady breathing mingled with Opal's soft sighs. Caleb's gaze softened. These girls were his world now, a world he would defend at any cost. He quickly dressed and moved to the security control room. Screens flickered with live feeds from cameras surrounding the manor. Marcus was already analyzing the footage. The vehicle's been parked there for 30 minutes, Marcus reported. No one's approached the gates yet, but it's clear someone is watching. Caleb frowned. Any idea who Marcus shook his head? Too early to tell, but given the history, we can't rule out Vertex operatives or those hired by them. Caleb nodded grimly. Increase patrols and maintain constant surveillance. Notify Detective Elena Torres. As the sun rose over the horizon, casting golden light through the manor's grand windows, Caleb settled into his study for what he anticipated would be a long day of meetings and planning. The balance between his corporate duties and the delicate care of the quintuplets stretched him thin, but he welcomed the challenge. Mid-morning, Maya Patel arrived with a detailed report from the nannies, Mrs., Chen, and Ms. Patterson. The girls were developing, rapidly learning new words, exploring their environment with curiosity, and showing early signs of complex social interaction. Amber climbed to the top of the play structure today, Maya said with a smile. She's fearless. Caleb chuckled. Sounds like her. The doorbell rang unexpectedly. Caleb frowned. Visitors were rare and always scheduled well in advance. Marcus intercepted the arrival, returning a moment later. It's Detective Torres, Marcus informed him. Elena entered with a folder of documents, her expression serious but determined. Caleb, she began, we've made significant progress in tracing the origins of the surveillance equipment found near the property. It's tied to a private security firm contracted by a shell company linked to Vertex. Caleb's jaw clenched. They're relentless. Elena nodded. Yes. We also uncovered communication suggesting they're planning another attempt to approach the girls, possibly to retrieve research data or worse. The gravity of her words settled over them like a storm cloud. We'll need to act fast, Caleb said. Increase security, schedule additional patrols, and prepare for potential confrontations. Elena agreed. I'll coordinate with federal agents and request backup for the upcoming court hearing. The court hearing was set to review Caleb's petition for permanent guardianship. It was a pivotal moment, the legal system's acknowledgement of his role as protector and provider for the quintuplets. In the days leading to the hearing, Caleb's routine became a delicate dance. Morning meetings intertwined with midday feedings. Late-night strategy sessions punctuated by lullabies whispered to 5 sleeping children. During one quiet evening, Caleb sat beside Serena Valdez in the nursery. The girls were nestled between them, exhausted from a day full of play. Serena's voice was soft but firm. "We've fought so hard to protect them. Now, we have to prepare for the possibility that this fight will last for years." Caleb nodded. "I'm ready. They deserve that." The hearing day arrived with a mix of tension and hope. Caleb entered the courtroom with a composed demeanor, his attorney, Nathan Blake, at his side. Judge Harriet Blake presided, her reputation for fairness well known. The courtroom was filled with observers, legal representatives, social workers, and reporters drawn by the unusual case. Caleb's testimony was clear and heartfelt. He spoke of the girls' progress, their personalities, and the lengths he and Serena had gone to ensure their safety and well-being. He detailed the threats they faced, the legal battles with Vertex, and his commitment to provide a stable, loving home. Judge Blake listened intently, asking probing questions about Caleb's experience and plans. After a lengthy session, the judge announced her decision permanent guardianship was granted, contingent on continued oversight and cooperation with child services. Relief washed over Caleb. The court's decision was not just a legal victory. It was an affirmation of the family they had become. Back at Sinclair Manor, the mood was celebratory but tempered with the awareness of ongoing challenges. That night, Caleb tucked each of the quintuplets into bed, whispering promises of safety and love. As he stood alone in the quiet nursery, he reflected on the journey that had brought them here from the stormy night in the garage to the courtroom's solemn chamber. The path had been fraught with uncertainty, fear, and sacrifice, but it had forged a bond stronger than blood. Caleb knew the future would demand resilience and courage, but with the girls' laughter filling his home and Serena by his side, he felt ready to face whatever lay ahead. The air inside Sinclair Manor was thick with anticipation as Caleb Sinclair prepared for yet another pivotal moment in the ongoing saga of the quintuplets. It was no longer just a private battle. The case had attracted national attention, forcing Caleb and his team to navigate a complex web of media scrutiny, legal challenges, and emotional strain. Maya Patel entered his study, balancing a laptop and a stack of reports. "The press is starting to ask questions," she warned gently. "We need a strategy." Caleb leaned back, rubbing his temples. The constant spotlight was a far cry from the quiet solitude he once valued. "We'll have to control the narrative, protect the girls' privacy at all costs." Maya nodded. "I've drafted a statement emphasizing the children's well-being, the commitment to their care, and the ongoing investigation into Vertex Biotech." Caleb reviewed the draft, appreciating the balance between transparency and discretion. "Good. Release it tomorrow after the court hearing." The hearing itself was a crucible of emotion and tension. Caleb sat beside Serena Valdez as attorneys debated custody, corporate liability, and ethical responsibilities. The courtroom was crowded, the atmosphere charged with the gravity of decisions that would shape 5 young lives. Caleb's testimony was heartfelt and unwavering. He spoke not just as a guardian, but as a father figure who had transformed from a solitary businessman into a protector fueled by love and duty. Serena's scientific expertise lent credibility to their claims, highlighting the unethical experiments that led to the quintuplets' birth and underscoring the necessity of their protection. Judge Harriet Blake's questions were probing, demanding evidence of long-term plans and emotional commitment. At one point, Caleb hesitated, wrestling internally with memories of loss and hope. The courtroom silence was palpable as he composed himself and continued. The judge's final ruling extended permanent guardianship to Caleb and Serena jointly, recognizing their partnership and the stability it provided. Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed as the statement was released. Caleb's team moved quickly to shield the girls from unwanted attention, redirecting inquiries and maintaining strict privacy protocols. Back at the manor, the girls thrived amid their unusual yet loving environment. Ruby's leadership blossomed, guiding her sisters with a precocious confidence. Pearl's quiet intellect was evident in her fascination with books and patterns. Amber's boundless energy kept caregivers on their toes, while Jade's soothing nature helped resolve the occasional toddler dispute. Opal's contemplative gaze hinted at a deep, emerging awareness of the world around her. The foundation Caleb and Serena established, the Sinclair Valdez Initiative, began gaining traction. Its mission to promote ethical research and protect vulnerable children resonated within the scientific and legal communities. Yet the shadow of Vertex Biotech lingered. Although several executives faced charges, the corporation's influence persisted in subtle, insidious ways. Caleb and Elena Torres worked tirelessly to expose and dismantle these remnants, pushing for transparency and accountability. One evening, Caleb found himself alone in the nursery, watching the girls play with a set of handcrafted blocks. Their laughter was a balm to his weary soul. Maya entered quietly, placing a hand on his shoulder. "They're lucky to have you," she said softly. Caleb smiled, eyes misting. "I'm the lucky one." The journey from that stormy night when cries in the garage shattered his solitude to this moment of fragile peace had been arduous. He knew challenges remained: legal battles, corporate retaliation, the girl's future, but for the first time, hope outshone fear. As he looked down at the 5 faces, each unique, vibrant, full of promise, Caleb felt a profound sense of purpose. These children had not only transformed his life, they had saved him. Caleb Sinclair sat alone in his study late into the night. The house around him silent except for the distant sounds of the city beyond the estate gates. His mind was a tumult of emotions, relief from recent legal victories, worry for the ongoing threats from Vertex Biotech, and an unfamiliar but growing sense of belonging that had taken root since the arrival of the quintuplets. The faces of Ruby, Pearl, Amber, Jade, and Opal floated in his thoughts, 5 little girls who had irrevocably altered the course of his life. They were no longer the mysterious infants abandoned on his doorstep. They were children with personalities, dreams, and futures he was determined to protect. Despite the growing bonds, Caleb wrestled internally with the weight of responsibility. His life had been defined by control, boardrooms, strategic decisions, and the cold calculus of business. Now, he faced the unpredictable, messy, beautiful chaos of parenthood. He remembered the first time he held Ruby, her tiny hand gripping his finger with surprising strength. It was a moment that had cracked the armor around his heart, allowing something softer and more vulnerable to emerge. Yet doubt lingered in the quiet hours. Was he truly prepared for this? Could he shield them from the shadows that still hunted them? Could he offer them the love and stability they deserved? The arrival of Serena Valdez months ago had shifted the dynamic. Her fierce determination and scientific expertise complemented Caleb's resources and resolve. Together, they formed a partnership, both professional and deeply personal, that became the foundation of the quintuplet's protection. Their co-guardianship was unprecedented but necessary, blending love, science, and security in a delicate balance. That night, Caleb's phone buzzed a message from Maya Patel. New security protocols are live. Surveillance increased around the nursery and perimeter. All clear so far. A small comfort. The following morning, Caleb joined Serena and the nannies in the nursery, watching as the girls explored a new set of educational toys. Ruby's leadership qualities were evident as she organized a game involving colorful blocks. Pearl's quiet focus drew Caleb's admiration. Amber's fearless climbs elicited both smiles and sighs from the caregivers. Jade soothed a fussy Opal, demonstrating the emerging social bonds that had developed despite their unique challenges. Later, Caleb met with Detective Elena Torres and Marcus Lang to review the latest intelligence. Though Vertex Biotech's most egregious actors faced indictments, the corporation's tendrils still reached deep into industry and government. "We must remain vigilant," Elena warned. "They've demonstrated a willingness to go to any lengths to protect their interests." Caleb's resolve hardened. "We will not let them touch the girls." Amid these pressures, Caleb found unexpected moments of joy and normalcy. Family dinners, bedtime stories, and quiet mornings with the girls became sacred rituals that anchored him. One evening, after tucking in the quintuplets, Caleb and Serena shared a rare quiet moment on the garden terrace. The night air was cool, the stars a brilliant canopy above. Serena reached for Caleb's hand. "We've built something extraordinary here." He nodded, a warmth spreading through him. "More than I ever imagined possible." As they watched their daughter's laughter echo in the night, Caleb realized that the chaos, fear, and uncertainty had given way to something enduring: family. The road ahead would be long, but together they would face it with courage, love, and unyielding commitment. The morning light filtered softly through the tall windows of Sinclair Manor, casting a warm glow over the nursery where Ruby, Pearl, Amber, Jade, and Opal were already awake, their bright eyes reflecting curiosity and energy. The house, once silent and austere, now buzzed with the joyful chaos that 5 toddlers naturally bring. Caleb Sinclair stood quietly in the doorway, watching his daughters play with a mix of awe and tenderness. Their laughter and chatter filled the rooms, transforming the mansion from a monument of solitary achievement into a home brimming with life and love. It had been 4 years since that stormy night when the cries from the garage shattered his loneliness and set in motion a journey he never could have imagined. The quintuplets had grown into remarkable children, each with a unique spirit, personality, and charm that belied their identical appearance. Ruby, the natural leader, coordinated their play with a confidence that was both endearing and impressive for her age. Pearl's quiet observance and thoughtful nature complemented her sister's energy. Amber's adventurous spirit kept everyone on their toes, climbing and exploring with boundless enthusiasm. Jade's calm demeanor and peacemaking skills soothed the occasional disputes, and Opal's contemplative gaze hinted at a depth beyond her years. Caleb's gaze softened as he recalled the months of sleepless nights, legal battles, and relentless threats from Vertex Biotech, the corporation that had once sought to exploit the quintuplets as research subjects. The fight to protect them had been exhausting and fraught with danger, but it had forged unbreakable bonds and given new purpose to a life once marked by isolation. together with Serena Valdez, whose return had been a beacon of hope and strength. Caleb had built a family and a foundation dedicated to ethical research and child advocacy. The Sinclair Valdez Foundation stood as a testament to resilience, justice, and the power of love in the face of adversity. On this day, preparations were underway for the quintuplets' kindergarten orientation. The girls were stepping into a new chapter, one that promised challenges and opportunities as they began to explore the world beyond their secure sanctuary. Caleb and Serena had worked closely with school officials to develop enhanced security protocols, ensuring that the girls would be safe while experiencing a sense of normalcy. The balance between protection and freedom was delicate but essential. As the girls gathered their backpacks, Caleb knelt to speak with them individually. "Remember," he said softly, "you are brave, smart, and loved. No matter where you go, you carry us with you." Serena smiled warmly, "and we're always just a phone call away." The morning sun bathed the family in golden light as they prepared to leave the manor, the quintuplets' faces alight with excitement and curiosity. Later, as the day unfolded with new routines and experiences, Caleb found a quiet moment to reflect. The journey from that fateful night in the garage to this bright morning had transformed him. The man who once sought solace in solitude now embraced the chaos and beauty of family. He understood that the true measure of success was not in wealth or power, but in the love and protection he could provide. As evening fell, Caleb and Serena gathered the girls in the garden, watching fireflies dance against the twilight. The moment was peaceful, a rare gift amid the complexities that had shaped their lives. Caleb whispered a promise to the night sky. Whatever storms might come, whatever battles awaited, they would face them together, bound by love, resilience, and the unyielding commitment to protect the extraordinary lives entrusted to them. The Sinclair Valdez family, forged in adversity and strengthened by hope, stood ready to meet the future as one. As Caleb Sinclair's journey shows us, love and family often emerge from the most unexpected storms. 5 little girls, once abandoned and vulnerable, have grown surrounded by courage, protection, and hope. Their story is a powerful reminder that no child should ever be treated as an experiment or a commodity, and that every life deserves dignity, safety, and unconditional love. But beyond the warmth and joy, this tale also calls us to reflect on the harsh realities of discrimination, exploitation, and the dangers of unchecked power. It challenges us to stand against injustice and to protect the most vulnerable among us. We hope this story has touched your heart and opened your eyes to the strength found in compassion and resilience. If you've been moved by Caleb and the quintuplets' journey, please like this video, share it with others who need to hear this message, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories that highlight the power of love and justice. Stay with us as we continue to explore stories that uplift, challenge, and transform. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next video.